I'm Kirk McKenzie, the founder of Defend Rural America. This is the first of two videos of the recent decision of Interior Secretary Ken Salazar to destroy jobs, 40% of California's oyster production, millions of oysters, terminate a beloved business that has been in operation for 40 years, and turn working families into jobless and homeless victims of his decisions. It is the story of Drakes Bay Oyster Farm, located on the Pacific coast just north of San Francisco. Using only a small wooden boat and platform, a large bay, hard work, and an environmentally friendly facility with a minimal footprint, a few families provide millions of fresh, delicious, and wholesome oysters to grateful consumers, connoisseurs, and restaurants in the San Francisco Bay Area and elsewhere in California. For over 40 years, employees have lived and worked at this modest facility and hosted over 60,000 visitors a year who come for the oysters, fresh air, and beautiful view. In this video, co-owner Ginny Lunny discusses the human dimensions of this saga. In a second video, her brother Kevin will talk about the legal and historical aspects. If you would, tell us about the impact this decision of Secretary Ken Salazar is going to have.
So the human factor is probably the largest impact that I'm recognizing right now. And there are not even words that I can use to describe the sorrow of the families that have been here for, in some cases, 3 generations, 30 years. We have so many sad people that are going to be displaced. The federal government has promised relocation. They've promised housing subsidies. And when we asked for figures such as how in the past, how many dollars are actually there and how easily is it for you, or what kinds of data do you have as far as jobs for these employees once they leave, they had no answers. That's what started to worry me. So it sounds so good on paper that we have subsidies for housing and that we are going to get you jobs. But these are some terrible economic times, and we're in an area out here where there isn't housing. So the people that have worked here, they have networking amongst themselves and our community here in West Marin that have just been shattered.
Now, if I understand correctly, the people, a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of the employees actually work here, correct?
They do. They work here. They live here. This is their life. This is their community. Many of them actually have side jobs, small side jobs in restaurants where they might help. So they're very well known here. They're very much a part of our churches, our schools, our volunteer programs, that they'll help with volunteering. And I think that rippling effect is probably what has hurt me the most. And I don't think we really realized it until Mr. Salazar made that decision that their life was over here as they've known it for the last 2 to 3 decades.
I think that's an amazing thing here, that you have families, many of them actually live here where they work at the company. They have facilities and been here up to 3 generations, and now not only do they not have a job, they don't have any homes.
That is right. We always prided ourselves on the fact that in this area, in Marin County, it is extremely expensive. Even Sonoma County, our bordering county, it is so expensive, housing. So this was part of their income, was their home here. And I just don't know how they're going to actually get out there and find what they need to replace what they've had here. Now,
as I understand, the Salazar, not Salazar, but the Department of Forest Service or the department came on out here and met with them yesterday. Is that right?
It was actually representatives from Ken Salazar's office have been out here for the past 2 days. The original meeting was actually held here in Jorge's home, and it was the first time that our employees were actually had the opportunity to speak, and it was powerful beyond words of what they had to say. They talked about the fact that they are environmentalists and that they have taken great care of this estero. When ocean debris comes flowing in, we have work days where we go out and we clean the estero. They are very conscientious to the wildlife that's out there, especially pupping season. They know what laws are in place and they adhere to those perfectly. They tried to explain to these representatives of Mr. Salazar's office to please come and see what they have given to this estero for the past 30 years, and could we please coexist? It was heart-wrenching to see what this group of people wanted to express to our Department of the Interior before they or after they made this decision.
And were the Department of Interior agents paying much attention?
I believe, just by the looks of their face, I wish my eyes were cameras, I believe they were awestruck. They did not know how to handle what they just saw. It was powerful.
Now, I understand that they actually scheduled this meeting with your employees without even contacting you. Is that correct? They contacted them directly?
That is correct, and I'm not exactly sure why that was, but it was all handled. But our harvest manager actually contacted us, and in their best interest, I of course attended. I did a couple of principals, a past principal and a current principal, to talk to the Department of the Interior so they could understand, again, the rippling effect of dragging children out of school in the middle of February to relocate to a larger city where, schools could be 4 times as large as the little environment that they're accustomed to.
So here's a story, a kind of heart-wrenching story. The personal side of this is that the families that have been living here for 3 decades, I look and walking around and meeting with some of the people, you realize that their families have been able to be kept whole. The moms and the dads and the children and relatives are all here together, having a pretty good lifestyle and environmentally aware, concerned, and really not doing much to damage the environment at all. On the other hand, what they're doing is actually pretty beneficial, and yet the decision is made to go ahead and rip up their lives.
That's exactly how we see it right now. And as we work as a small community out here, we become very close. As you see, there's not a whole lot of other things that are distracting other than our work here. And to have us all ripped apart is heart-wrenching.
I know that this has been going on a long time, and there's been a lot of attention on this. I know there's been a lot of discussion about this. What is your really gut feeling as to why this is actually happening?
Well, I do have my own opinion, and I think it really stems from a very radical environmentalist point of view where we're trying to bring wilderness back and eliminating our human beings.
The end result of this is going to be to remove the people here from this bay entirely. The only people that will be left that can actually visit here will be kayakers. Is that correct?
Right. There will be there's opportunities for hikers and kayakers to use the estero. The estero is closed during pupping season to all, including the kayakers. So there are about 5 or 6 months out of the year that the estero will be closed simply for pupping season. We've, for decades, worked around that pupping season. We have stayed so far from any of the seals and their babies. We've been able to coexist, but you're right. This is just going to be for a very select athletic crowd.
And by pupping, you're talking about seal pups, right?
Seal pups, yes, excuse me, seal pups.
So one of the arguments being made, I guess, is that because of the seal pups, somehow your operation is interfering with that.
That is what their scientific evidence that they've presented, which has been proven time and time again not to be accurate.
I can tell you this, having gone out in the bay this morning with Ginny and the crew, we're talking about a relatively very small boat pushing a relatively very small platform, going out into a very large bay, and almost no disturbance whatsoever. And plenty of life. We saw seals in the bay. We saw birds. I mean, there's really no interference here. This is a lot less interference here than you'd find in a national park, for example. I mean, it's just almost nothing. We'll have video on that.
As food producers, which our family, our 5-generation, we started as a dairy. Now we're organic, grass-fed beef ranchers and oystermen, a little surf, a little turf. What we felt was important as food producers is that we could coexist out here. We know that 85% of all the shellfish come from outside of the United States. And here in the Bay Area, we are able to produce about 40% of California's oysters. We're the last cannery left in the state of California. So this was the last place that restaurants and grocery stores in the Bay Area could obtain California-grown oysters that are shucked, packed, and delivered all within hours. This is all going to be gone for the state of California. And I think that's the part that is most troubling to us.
The 40% of California's oyster production, that's an amazing deal. So you guys, your family basically, and your employees are largely responsible for all those delicacies. I know we're here at the north end of the San Francisco Bay. A lot of the San Francisco Bay restaurants I know have worked with you for decades, worked for the operation here to get their fresh oysters for their clientele. If that's eliminated, what's going to happen?
Very good question that all of our executive chefs and restaurateurs and grocery stores are asking. Where are we going to get our oysters? Well, they're going to be shipped in from Washington. And so when you think of the global impact of just all that transportation and the time, the Bay Area is just not going to have that fresh oyster that they were very used to.
And that's assuming that Washington State oysters aren't shut down.
That is correct. That's assuming exactly. And, you just never know what can happen on a coast.
One of the things that you were telling me a little earlier really shocked the heck out of me. Here's this very peaceful environment, a beautiful bay, not too many people. In fact, there's no construction here, maybe a couple of ranch houses. Other than that, it's just beautiful green. That they came out and without your knowledge or awareness installed a high-resolution camera to spy upon you in the bay?
Well, that was years ago. A camera was put in place by the National Park Service to snap pictures minute by minute during the working days to take photos of our operation and anything else that went on in the estero without our knowledge. It was eventually identified by our family, and we were able to obtain through FOIA all of those photos. And those photos were able to reveal to us that we really were not the problem to the seals as we were accused of being. Very often it was our park visitor, hikers, kayakers. Those were the people that were causing the disturbances to the mother seals and their baby pups and flushing them into the water.
Now, before the FOIA being the Freedom of Information Act request, before you obtain this information, you informed me that they were taking these photos and then they were using them to make the claim that your operation was disturbing the seals. And once you obtain the photographs yourself, you're actually to see in every instance that the cause was some naturalist, somebody in a kayak or something that was doing the disturbing?
That is correct, as I know it.
It's amazing to me, and this is not, just it's a story, but there are so many of these happening in rural America across the country, and this whole attitude of surveillance and the other point you made to me is a kind of a false science basis here. Do you want to make any comments on that?
Honestly, I'd rather you ask that question to my brother.
Okay, we'll discuss that because what we're seeing.
He's much more aware of the whole science side of this argument.
We'll talk about that. Certainly from Siskiyou County, I can tell you flat out, having talked to Dr. Paul Hauser, who was within the Department of the Interior, blew the whistle on the fraud that was being used there. The science did not support the conclusions. And he has a written report that flat out says that the science was being manipulated to support the predetermined desires of Secretary Salazar to shut down and blow up 4 dams and seal off 9 counties of the entire Klamath River Basin. So this is a pattern that's going, beyond just individual stories. This is a national problem and is affecting our food supply. It is affecting our water and our energy and our other, hikers who want to get out. They're sealing down the Yosemite National Park and so forth. So it's having a much broader impact. But here's an example of that and the gut-wrenching kind of effect it has on the people that are impacted by this. What would you like people who would be watching this video, what would you like to tell them or what would you like them to know?
Oh, great question. I think it's time for all of us to really investigate what is going on here. We all thought that the National Park Service was here to save everything, and in fact, they have a different plan. And I think it's our job as American citizens to really investigate what is really going on and why can these scientific inaccuracies be the destiny of all of us. I'm laying in bed thinking about what I've just observed. As our employees are realizing that their lives as they've known it are gone. It's over. And I myself have to make a career change, which is fine. But I think part of my career change is going to be, as an educator for the past 20 years, is to really let people know what they have to learn about our government and what's happening right now. I pledge time to do that because we get so busy in our work world that we take care of the day's needs, and the next thing we know, we've lost it all.
I can tell you the Defend Rural America movement is based upon people just like yourselves. We're all volunteering time. We've come to the realization that there's a much bigger agenda here and that this is not business as usual. We have to fight back. So join the crowd. We're working together to take our country back.
And for years, like I said, we would try to educate here at the Oyster Farm when people would come from the cities surrounding the importance of local sustainable foods, because that's just about education. It's about understanding where your foods are coming from and its importance. And if I don't have that to do, I think my next best thing to do will be to inform people that we still need to have these places on our earth where cattle can graze and where oysters can live in harmony in our bays.
It's interesting. I didn't know this, but in Europe now they're much further along in the same path that we're on. They actually raise cattle in buildings that are multi-story downtown. And here I am, I was filming a video up in Siskiyou County just like this, just nothing but beautiful hills and great green grass and cows walking around pretty happy and enjoying the outdoors. And that's being shut down, and here the same thing's happening here. So you have fresh, wonderful oysters that people can enjoy, environmentally sound, sustainable food supply, quality food supply, which we're all caring about, and what's going to replace that, assuming we can get them from Washington State, I'm not so sure. I don't think we're going to have fresh oysters anymore.
Well, we already produce oysters that supplement what for example, our neighboring and good friend, Drakes Bay Oysters, can supply. There is such a demand from the local Bay areas that come out and enjoy this that we supply as many oysters as we possibly can, being the larger grower out here. They cannot even get enough oysters from Washington to supplement what they need and can grow in Drakes Bay. So as soon as these are gone, there is already an impact.
What has been the response from the community and your customers?
The customers have been overwhelming. I think that is what has allowed us to even continue going on and on and on. We have many community members that live right here in Inverness that are opposed to us. They are very much the wilderness seekers. And I've never really talked to many of them. They're just a whole other group. But primarily, and I would say primarily, our community is supportive of us and seriously divided by this whole decision.
I understand you were telling me earlier that you have 60,000. Now this is basically a pretty rural setting, a small little bunch of buildings here, and yet you have 60,000 visitors a year.
We do. We've never actually counted them, but through our sales receipts, etc., we can kind of keep track about what we have, and we do. We do school tours where we did school tours from primary level all the way up to Stanford grads. We would bring them around. We would show them our operation here, share with them the whole rather scientific ways in which we produce the oysters here. It was a great educational experience for not only our visitors, schools, but just people that happen to come down to see what does an oyster farm look like.
Now, as we've been standing here in front of this little oyster shack, just while you've been talking, there's cars and cars coming in, one here, one at a time, and building up. And I understand the other day there was quite a few of them. Are they coming out in support?
They are. Many are coming out in support. Many don't even know about this. They just happen to be out visiting. But honestly, our support group, even just we're receiving letters. People have come by with lasagnas, with cakes, with pies. This is almost like a funeral for us out here. People are heartbroken that we're going to be gone, because this goes back to families for 5 and 6 generations that have been coming out here. And when I talk about the crowds that are coming out here, so often it's our Asian oyster lovers from San Francisco. We have the Central Valley where all of the ranching goes on. So much of that is done by Portuguese. They come out and literally have huge festas where oysters are part of the menu, and they'll buy tens of thousands of these oysters. They don't even know where they're going to get them. So little do people know what a huge impact this change will make for the state of California.
And where we stand at the moment is that Salazar has made the decision, I guess, just a few days ago to not allow the operation to continue after decades in operation, and to shut it down, and has given you 90 days.
Right, 90 days. Somebody's going to have to write a book, 90 days. That's not very much time to complete what we need to do here. It's just overwhelming, honestly. I can't go there right now.
I noticed that there are a number of buildings here. Do these belong to the to the department?
Again, that's a good question to ask Kevin. I'm not exactly sure. I do know that we are not allowed to make any alterations or changes to any of these buildings as long as we've been here. Marin County actually supplied a permit for us immediately. The first thing we needed to do was put roofs on all of these buildings, but the California Coastal Commission and the National Park Service have yet to approve those permits, and it's been 7 years. So we've had to come up with some creative ideas to how to keep the rain from coming through the buildings, because everything is so ruined now. But it's a difficult way in which to run a business when there's somebody dictating as to how you can even take care of the buildings that you're using.
So essentially, these families have 90 days to uproot them homes and move out to where they don't know, to jobs they don't know of, they don't have. And you've got 90 days, and you're supposed to remove all of the oysters from the bay.
I believe that is the plan.
And if you can't sell them, they just die.
I believe that is the plan.
And the department really doesn't care. Is that correct?
I haven't really spoken to anybody about that, and I don't know that everybody in the Park Service, I mean, we're talking about some employees that I know personally that don't have the same opinion. And they just happen to be employed by the National Park Service. So I can't say that it's every single person in the National Park Service. This may be simply Washington, D.C.
Well, I have to say, this is again experience in Siskiyou County. It's people. It's kind of like Nazi Germany. It's just people saying, "Well, I'm just doing my job," and what they're doing is they're destroying the jobs and the communities of people that they theoretically live in, and they do that, and then they move on to the next assignment somewhere, thinking they're good people. They know that they are supportive, but they don't do anything to stand up. They just continue to say, "Well, it's my job," and I continue to do that. So these agencies certainly aren't acting in a helpful fashion. That's for sure. They used to, no more.
I do agree. I found myself in a position as farm manager out here, taking on a role that many might think would be held by a man. And one thing that I had to realize is that I had to stand very strong, and sometimes as a woman even stronger than not. And our superintendent is a woman, and I oftentimes think that as a woman, I think it would have been very important that she stood up for what she knew was right.
Did she?
No.
The Lunny story is unfortunately only one of thousands of personal stories to expose the fact a once helpful government has turned hostile and uses various devices to destroy the production of quality food, water, energy, building materials, mineral, and other resources that are vital to our nation's prosperity, independence, sovereignty, and security. Be sure to watch Kevin Lunny's story in the second video, also entitled The Battle to Save Drakes Bay Oyster Farm, and visit the DefendRuralAmerica.com website to learn more. Thank you for your time.